Final 20 minutes of the Dan Mullen Radio Show. Lot to get to. Parkway Tavern. And thanks to the folks at all the Parkway Taverns for the great job they do with the happy hours, double happy hour, $2 off a lot of the drinks, the beers, the cocktails, 50% off the appetizers. Remember, during the Dan Mullen Radio Show here at 2:15 and Flamingo at Parkway Tavern, $2 on Miller Lights. Caleb Herring, Steve Cofield, and Erick Harper sits in with us. Dan Mullen actually working at practice right now. Kind of a new thing. We were just talking to Hunky Cooper about the fact that now we're starting to see night practices. And, hey, with a new coaching staff, new things come along.
Things are a little different. Obviously the game in Texas, my home state, will be at 8:30 p.m. in the Central Time. So you kind of get used to that kind of get the clock ready for the guys so that they can adapt very easily to the time change.
You've mentioned a lot about, since your tenure really got underway, about the student-athlete experience. And there's been so many things that you've focused on, you and your staff, that have enhanced it. What are some of the ways, since the last time we talked, because it seems like forever ago during the last presser when we were introducing Dan Mullen. We'll get into that one. But what are some of the things that you've done specifically for the student-athlete experience and enhancing it?
We focus a lot, of fueling the body in the nutrition space, because both athletically and academically, if the mind is not fueled right with the nutrition and the body's not fueled right with nutrition, things can suffer. Lack of concentration, lack of focus, different things that prevent you from being your best. So it's important to focus on the nutritional aspect of it, and not just in the calorie intake, but it's on the recovery side as well. And we have a great nutritionist in Kennedy Springer, and that is a big part of helping our student athletes understand off the field.
One of the other things that I think is a student-athlete/student experience, the student section itself. And Rebel fans got to see what Allegiant Stadium looks like with the student section down on the field in the south end zone. Can you touch on a little bit how that got to be and what are the things that led to that coming to fruition this season?
I have a fantastic team that I work with. From Mike Ketchum and Gene Canal and Joe Moeller and Andy Grossman, Becky Pugh, and all of those that really support what is the next thing that we need to do? What do we need to improve upon? And having that student section and that end of the field closed in gives us obviously a home field advantage, but at the same time it really energizes our student section to be able to, and how it came about is we just looked and said, you know what, we have to figure a way out how to get that section down there and in there of some way, whether it's temporary or not, but also having really good conversation, really good communication, collaboration with the Las Vegas Raiders and Allegiant Stadium to come up with a solution for that. And that's a very similar solution to what they used to have down at the Cardinals. But it's a great opportunity for us to look at that and see what it's going to do for us. And I really liked it in Game 1.
Thinking about solutions, there was an issue maybe some Rebel fans were a little bit worried about. And, again, we talked about it at the presser introducing Dan Mullen. But that was only your second hire for a football coach as an athletic director. We could say that you did a great job with number one. Number two, I think it was a great second act. But tell me about the process of landing Dan Mullen, bringing him into the fold, and what it means to introduce his staff and this new regime in such a quick order.
Other than 96 hours of complete stress and pain, was, again, great team around me and Mike Ketchum and Joe Moeller and had some great support from Dan Dolby as well. But understanding we truly needed to put ourselves in a position with what Coach Odom had, given us a great foundation. And I go back to my days at Kansas State. However, we had Bill Snyder for a long time. But to be able to look and talk with Dan when he came in for the college football college football Hall of Fame deal, Foundation Hall of Fame deal, and to have an opportunity to sit down and talk with him, and you could see that the energy of coaching was still in him. You just had to figure out, is UNLV the place that he wants to be? And just like Coach Odom, and I did an interview a few weeks ago, both of them was like, this is the job that I want right now. And that was important to me. And then you look at all the other factors. But being able to have Coach Mullen and that opportunity to sit down and talk with him out at Southern Highland on that particular week was pretty special.
So I'm curious, how quickly has your relationship developed off the field? Because I'll reference Odom. One of my favorite moments of almost every game the last couple of years was you're down on the field, get a win, especially if it's a close win at the end. You guys would have had this big embrace. You were happy. You going to do that with Mullen, or is it like, hey, you gotta now we have to get to 9, 10, 11 wins to get the big hug? Like, I think I remember you being so happy, like bowl game a couple of years ago. Let's go, big hug. What do you like with Dan?
Hey, Dan and I had a big hug on Saturday. It doesn't matter. Hey, a win is a win is a win is a win. I'll take 13 more of them. If we get 13 more by 7 points, we will be in the college football playoff. So I don't care how many points we win by. But that embrace, but that's two guys with a passion to win at the highest level and to win together. No one does this by themselves. I mean, I mentioned my team. No one does it by themselves. But Dan and I have great communication, and I'm excited about him being our coach and for many years to come. And he keeps telling me he's going to be here for a long time. So I'm going to hold him to that.
You are a person that's out at practice a lot. I know back in my day playing, I didn't see the AD a lot out at practice. Is that something that you, as an athletic director, take pride in, being visible to the guys, being visible to the coaching staff, and you're even present for graduations? I know it's a tradition so far where you're out with the student athletes taking pictures after graduation. There's a lot of different ways where you're visible and making contact with players. Is that something you take pride in as the athletic director?
I take a lot of pride in that, and I learned that starting out in this business from guys I work with. God rest his soul, the late Steve Miller at Kansas State. But it's important for our student athletes to see me and see our staff when they're not in trouble, because there are times when they do get in trouble and they got to come into the principal's office and have an issue that we're going to have to discuss. But at the same time, it's important for them to see me in a more jovial way and not coming in my office to apologize for making a mistake. And we all make mistakes. I'm very certain I made plenty of them today. I just don't know about them just yet. But when I can go to practice, I went to soccer practice today. Our men's team was playing soccer today, was practicing soccer today. I got over to them to see them a little bit today. But that's important for me, to be visible, to be seen, so that, when those tough conversations that we have to have at some point in time, but also talk about life after sport in our career development space.
Erick Harper's with us, in for Dan Mullen, who's over at practice as the Rebels are starting night practices more often with a night start on a Friday night, an 8:30 start Central, 6:30 start our time. To build on the point about being out there at practice, you have to admit, over the last 5, 7, 10 years, it is a different looking team. Now, size and that doesn't make everything about a football player and a football team, but it does look like a different group than it has in the past.
Absolutely. Every coach is, especially in the sport of football, is trying to get bigger, faster, stronger. It doesn't mean that the guys that you have are not great players and not big and fast and strong, but you're always trying to get bigger, faster, stronger so that you can compete, because everybody else is trying to do the exact same thing. And I think it's important that you have the proper, again, going back to nutrition, you have the proper nutrition program, you have the proper strength and conditioning staff, and you have the proper recovery opportunities. But I think it's important to be bigger, faster, stronger every single year.
Erick Harper, Caleb Herring, Steve Cofield, and I think I mention this to you every time you're on, especially about football, and then this transfer portal era. You already said it. Everything has to be kind of lined up. Everyone's got to do work from the top down to the football program. And I have to say again, you are one of those guys who I think does a great job vetting players, because it's not always a given that every transfer coming in is going to be accepted. And I know you do a lot of work to make sure, hey, you know what, if someone has had some issues, let's give them a chance. Let's make sure they're the right guy and we're the right program.
Yeah, we can. Again, everybody makes mistakes, and Eric Nepomuceno, who is my deputy athletic director, chief operating officer, and he oversees football as a sport administrator. He does a fantastic job of preparing me and vetting before I sit down and I talk with these young men, as well as the young women that come into our various different programs. But it's important to have those conversations with anyone that's had a little slight issue in their past. It's important for me to sit down and talk to them and understand So they understand that there's going to be zero tolerance, but we're here to help you grow as an individual. We're here to help you grow as a person, as a eventually potentially a family person, where you have a family. But it's important for us to provide on the administrative side to provide those opportunities so that we grow these young men, we grow these young women in our program, so that they can have a great life after sport.
Should be a good crowd at Shell Energy Stadium. It's away from campus there in Huntsville, Texas. Sam Houston State is, but it should be a good crowd.
Don't want to go to Huntsville.
I've heard that. What do you know? Well, aside from they're in Huntsville, what do you know about Sam Houston State as a football program? I know they had a very decorated past before they jumped up to FBS, and I swear, all these new schools that we see in FBS, they all become pretty good. Texas high school football is awesome. Texas college football, I mean, it is deep.
I mean, it's pretty special being, born, native Texan and playing high school football in the state of Texas. I've seen a lot of really good college, good college players that eventually became great college players in the state of Texas. But Sam Houston State is a program that has done some really, really, really good things. They're going to continue to rise. They're in a very strong market down in the Houston area, and they get. There's some really, really good 2- and 3-star players in the state of Texas that ended up at a Sam Houston State that could play at Texas, that could play at Oklahoma, that could play at TCU. But they go to Sam Houston State and they have an opportunity to be on the field. And as many coaches will tell you, in particular Coach Mullen, if you don't play on Saturday or if you don't play on Friday for your college team, you're not playing on Sunday. So those guys got to understand being on the field and playing is a great opportunity to have a further opportunity in your career.
Let's give a big hand to Erick Harper in for Dan Mullen tonight, and we will see you on the plane tomorrow. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Caleb. Appreciate you guys.
There he is, Erick Harper, coming back. We're going to talk to Marcel McDuffie and break down this game against Sam Houston State right here on the Dan Mullen Radio Show on the Learfield UNLV Sports Network.
074696.
Last few minutes of the Dan Mullen Radio Show, getting ready for a road trip to not Huntsville, Texas, Houston proper, Sam Houston State. Kickoff at 8:30 Central Time, 6:30 here in Vegas. It is the Dan Mullen Radio Show. Matt Neverett hosts the show just about every week. He's the voice of the Rebels. He had a chance to talk to linebacker Marcel McDuffie, who had a great game in game number 1. He was one of the highest-rated guys according to Pro Football Focus. Plucked an interception. And Matt, in this part of the conversation, asked Marcel, talk about what some of your big assignments were in game 1.
I'm just trying to keep everybody calm and cool. It's a lot of guys' first time getting real action, and it was a different kind of game than we all expected. So just trying to keep everybody level-headed and, like I said, just leading by example with how I go out there and how I play.
And from the communication side of things, what's going to be a big adjustment for this week?
Like you said, communication, that's the main one. We had a few busts, and just a lot of that was really due to the communication, just not communicating pre-snap, just expecting certain things. And, that's really what it takes. Is the main thing for a defense is communication. Everyone's on the same page, and, we all right, we all wrong, and vice versa.
Was part of that struggle this week just because there were so many bodies being rotated in and out? I mean, inherently that's going to make the communication a bit tougher, right?
Yeah, I mean, you got, like I said, you got a lot of new guys out there, a lot of their first time, really getting action, starting and playing. And, it's different now. The bullets be flying, and, sometimes, the moment might, catch a guy by surprise, and you might have a mental error, and, that's part of the game. You just got to move on, put it in a review, and get ready for the next play.
Joined by Marcel McDuffie here. I do want to ask you about a couple of your teammates who had big-time days, starting off with LaTerrence Welch, a pair of interceptions, both at critical junctures in the game. What's his best feature on the field, and what's the number one thing you like the most about him?
He got real good technique, and he's a speed guy. He can make plays, he can make breaks on the ball. And I just like his energy. He comes in each and every day, high energy guy, always dapping me up, showing me love, and that's the type of guys you need on the team. Because me personally, I'm not one that's like to talk much. I'm not vocal, so sometimes I need a guy like that to just boost me up and get me going a little bit.
Those are the kind of things as a player or as a spectator maybe you take for granted is the communication aspect. And Marcel McDuffie had the benefit of playing next to Jackson Woodard for the last couple of seasons, who was one of the vocal leaders, who was the dominant voice in the defensive side of the game. Also, Jalen Catalon. He had plenty of vocal guys around him. Week 0, he got the learning experience himself. He had a good game, had the interception that helped seal the deal for the Rebels, but he even, in self-criticism, says the vocal communication is something I need to work on. Good self-awareness there, but communication was a big factor in why the defense maybe struggled at times last week. So good to see Marcel McDuffie, as talented as he is physically, understanding that now he's in a leadership role where he has to be vocal, understanding he has to step up to that task next week.
Marcel and the front 5, 6, or 7, whatever they're going to go with throughout the game, and UNLV's defense is multiple, has a different sort of assignment here with a dual threat quarterback. Hunter Watson, really dangerous on the ground for the Bearcats, but he had 647 on the ground a year ago, 9 touchdowns last week, had a touchdown, 91 yards.
Led the team in touchdowns last year. So he's a true dual threat quarterback that will call design runs, but he's dangerous with the off-schedule plays. And we saw even with our own quarterback in Calandria and with Orji able to make off-schedule plays. He does a lot of the same as well, not just making productive yards and gains down the field, but getting them out of a lot of bad situations and avoiding sacks. He's a true dual-threat quarterback. You mentioned it there. They've nicknamed this new system the Aircats. They tried to cut it loose. They tried to throw it. They were down for most of the game, so they did have to throw a little bit more. But also the legs and the ground game, they try to be a little bit balanced, and Hunter's one of the reasons that they are.
Final key, one of the most important things, just better tackling, right, on the side of the Rebels.
Better tackling, UNLV, getting to the point of attack and making sure you get the runner down defensively. Also, got to be worried on the offensive line. 3-3-5 system with the Bearcats on the defensive side. Stay out of 3rd and long. Best advice I can give you, stay out of 3rd and long. They have some complex schemes that are meant to confuse quarterbacks. So make sure you play the game in front of you and have disciplined eyes.